Well, it's about time I have my own trading gaming card like this one. I'm ready. Question is, are you? Kill you later.
Thank you, Dracula, for that lead in to Hellbreak. Hellbreak is exactly that, a trading card game based on horror properties, like Bride of Frankenstein or Dracula. Welcome to my channel. We're going to be talking today about Hellbreak. And I will be your host, Tamanon, Anime and TCGs. This is a little bit different than kind of the content that I usually talk about, which is anime card games and whatnot, but just look at this. Jaws and Dracula. Jaws, Dracula. Universal Studios properties. A classic monster, the classic summer blockbuster monster, and it's got a card game. This is not out yet. These are actually Gen Con demo decks that I overpaid for online because I really wanted them. I just thought, horror doesn't really get card games. It did in 2005 with Hecatomb, you get some Call of Cthulhu, but this is the first time in a while, and I've been saying for a long time that a horror card game, it just makes sense. It's one of the big three, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. And look at this, Dracula. Now, this game plays with like a flip card leader, and it plays a little differently than like Force of Will or One Piece or anything like that. It has some really interesting stuff. So every monster has a little knife in the corner that shows that it's kind of like unique. You have your effects on the top of the card, and this game, everything has multiple different effects. And they have a lurking side, and then you flip it to the unleashed side. And every single one of your like main dudes has one of these. And I just think there's like a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there, but yeah, I did just play this for a couple hours. But you know what? I kind of want to go through Jaws. I do like Jaws. It's the first summer blockbuster because of essentially filming mistakes, and it's pretty neat. Like, this kind of shows that this is not going to be just your typical horror. Like, having Jaws leaves room for things like Jurassic Park in the future, that kind of thing. Just classic, anything that's a monster. I know they're gonna have like Jason. There's probably gonna be like things like Chucky, the Mummy, etc. And horror fans are gonna eat this up. I actually picked this up not because of the horror, because I do like a lot of the classic movies, and I mean, who doesn't like Jaws? But I picked this up because the gameplay was really weird when I was reading it. And that's what kind of made me want to look at it first. Now, a lot of games right now have had leaders. There hasn't been kind of a leader game that has a flip since Force of Will, I believe, and I guess Magic has them, and Duel Masters, since all of that came from Duel Masters. But let's just get into the cards. So, first thing you'll notice is that some of the cards have the art on the bottom. I guess this is kind of like a Fantasy Flight thing, even though this is not Fantasy Flight games, but it's very typical of some board games. Ancient Wisdom, you draw 2. Card draw in your demo is pretty good. We got a bride here, Veronica. She costs 5. Undead Vampire Bride. It costs 1 blood less. Blood is like the resource you get at the start of your turn. And you get another bride here. So you'll also notice that all the cards kind of have like these effects in the middle. I'll go over them in a little bit when I pull it out. Now, this is a minion that has a little knife. The knife is basically legendary, or you just can only have one of her on the field at the time, as far as I am aware reading the rule books. Got a groundskeeper here. Look at that. That's some pretty cool art. Yeah, and the minions are not your monsters. And the monsters are your main dude in the middle. Minions are like the guys that you summon to locations to battle over the locations against your opponent's monster. Alluring Bride. Costs a blood less to play for each bride minion. So this demo deck is Dracula and his brides. Scheming is when you turn it sideways to get the ability, and I'll go into that later. Swarm of Rats. This is going to seem very familiar to some Magic players. It gets +1 for each allied copy of it, and a deck can have 6 copies. So not infinite copies like the other rats, but 6 is a pretty good number, and also kind of as funny as a demo deck thing, since you can kind of just square away the one. It's just like, well, we got 6 slots, let's just throw in 6 of this rat here. I don't know how decent this card is going to be. Haunting's pretty fun, and I feel like this Dracula deck really wanted to haunt a lot, which is I'll go into a little bit. Got Dracula's Fury, lurking action. You may flip your monster when you attack. Okay, so your monsters are going to be flipping back and forth pretty often, whether by card effects or by you just wanting to, at the end of your turn, you pretty much get the ability to do that. There's not really turns in this game. It's kind of like Star Wars Universe, where you kind of take turns at the same time. It's a little weird. It's fun. It's a little weird, but it's very, very fun. Let's see. Drain life. Deal damage to a minion. Heal a minion. Alright. Vampire's Coffin. When your monster flips, you gain a blood. So again, like, there's a lot of cards that are based around your monster flipping back and forth. They definitely want you to be doing that. There's some weird interactions with that when you get to playing. So, yeah, there's your flip. You don't really take turns, but you take like a round, and each round you kind of flip back and forth on I do something, you do something, I do something, you do something, and at the end of the rounds you can choose to flip your monster when like everything's said and done. So in each side of the monster has abilities that may or may not be better. They also give you different resources, which is kind of crazy. There's a lot to keep track of in this game. Like, look at that just right there. There's like 4, 2, 2, 6. There's a lot of numbers, and you know, I love this art here. When I was first going over the very dense one-page rulebook, I felt like maybe it would be a little too complicated in play, and I kind of do feel like there's still some complicated stuff going on, but once you get into the groove, it doesn't really feel that way. Let's see. Ferocious Wolf Pack. That's some cool art too. I am really excited as they announce more cards. They have also shown like that they're doing some more modern movies, like A Quiet Place is getting some cards called Fallen Angels for the aliens. And then you got some real classic horror tropes like, you know, the spooky glowing eyes cat here. And of course you can't have Dracula without Mina here. It's fun that they're putting some of the protagonists in this game as well. Count's Obsession. Yeah, that's about right. Blood Drinker. The symbols on the left under the main number. The main number is how much resource you need, and the symbols on the left are how much of the kind of loyalty to that color you need. That is, it's a lot more simple than you think. Youthful Vampire, and I will be going over the game rules a little bit more in depth at the end of this, where I show some footage of myself playing with a friend. Not a full in-depth gameplay, but kind of explaining more about what makes this game so unique besides the interesting card art. Reinfeld. Yeah, when it kills a minion by damage, you gain a blood. Blood is going to be your main resource, and your resources do not empty at the end of phases, which is pretty cool. Blood-sucking bat is a minion. Actually, you know what? After I show off just this first deck list, I think I'll show some of the footage, just so you get an idea for the rest of the decks. There are 4 of them, so this is like your icon reference. Cost, unique, combat, health, blood, malice, card, exhaust, prowl, foresee, haunt. Most cards, minions and monsters have these on them, and it kind of is really cool. It means that each card kind of has something that it does. And these are your game rounds. Again, there's no turns. It's just that you take a shared round where you do these, you know, phases, and you just go alternating actions, which in practice is a lot more simple than you would think it is, especially like explaining it to somebody who hasn't played before. But yeah, so like she taps or exhausts, and when you do, she haunts, where you add X malice to a location. Now, what are locations? Yeah, that is an action ability. These sideway cards are your locations. Castle Dracula. When you reveal a card for initiative, you add 2 to your bid. Ooh, there's bidding. There's initiative. What does that mean? Spooky looking art. There's the 3 green symbol, which is the malice that takes to control this location. And then the symbols on the right side are what you get when you take control of it. And then you get the really Hellbreak on the back of the card, Not quite as edgy as Hecatomb, but it's got some charm to it, honestly. Carfax Abbey. Ooh, spooky. It's a building, apparently. When you win initiative, you may deal 1 indirect damage to a player. Okay, so this deck is all about initiative. And, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to, before I show Jaws, and just talk about the gameplay for a little bit. So I sat down with Depa Cards, which I'll be linking below. He'll be posting the full gameplay videos eventually. And we just kind of explored the gameplay. So the first thing that you do is that you reveal the locations that you are bringing. Each player gets 1 location, and they kind of go to either side of the monsters, and that's where you're going to be fighting over. Your monsters go in the middle. They start on the lurking side. Each of your monsters and minions has a health bar, but for the sake of how to set up the game, the monster's health is the skull on the side. It's 16. So you represent that by taking the top cards of your deck and putting them face down for half of that life, basically. So 16, half of it's 8. So you put 8 face down, and each of those cards represents 2 points of damage. So you don't use like dice to represent your life or anything. It's just the cards face down. So there are shield type things, which is the jump scare mechanic. So if you played any type of shield games like Duel Masters, Digimon, Caster Chronicles, there's so many at this point, then you kind of understand that concept. However, each of the quote-unquote shields or life is 2 damage, not 1. To determine who goes first, you basically both put a card face down, reveal it, and whichever one has the highest cost, that's the person who has initiative. And then they go under your monster, and if you look at the bottom left of the monster, on the very bottom, it shows how many cards you draw a turn and how much blood or how much malice you add to your pool. And then you have the initiative, you're going to be taking the first action, but you both get the items to your pool, or from the pool to your like personal pool, and you draw that many cards. So yeah, I got the wrong ones. So I got 2, and there I go. So I got 2 blood, and I drew 2 cards, because that's what Jaws plus the thing under it is. And different monsters and different cards have different kind of abilities to add different stuff underneath of your monster, and you add 1 each turn. You can choose not to, but then you lose the initiative, and you also don't get any extra stuff the next turn. So that's kind of the trade-off, but that's how you keep gaining resources in this game. And the resources do not empty from the resource pool when you're finished with your turn. They just stay there if you don't use them, which is pretty nice because you can kind of like keep saving up. Kind of skipping ahead to another game just to kind of show you what you can do. So, we already are getting our resources. It's a little bit more because I have another dude underneath, and you also get the malice. Now, the malice is important because you can use that to pay for secondary abilities. It's kind of like a secondary resource, and if you notice in this screen, I have 1 malice on my side for that location on the right. Now, each of the locations has X amount of malice to take control of it, and when you take control of it, all malice is removed from that location, and it flips to your side, and then it does something. However, it's you're fighting over these locations, which also are lanes. So he exhausts his minion to haunt. That removes all the malice, and then he gets the abilities of that location, which is like, draw a card, and you get a blood to your pool. So you kind of want to fight over these locations for your resources, and sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, but the lanes, your monster can attack into both lanes, but your minions can only attack directly in front of them. Minions can block for each other and block for monsters, but only if it's in the same lane, and if you attacking the monster is how you attack the life. You kind of see that one of his life is turned sideways. That represents 1 damage, so like you take 1 damage, it goes there. Also really interesting to note is that damage is persistent. It stays on throughout all turns, and you have these little damage markers there. So your minions, if there's something big and scary, you can slowly get rid of it, and it just kind of there's a lot going on with the game. A lot of the cards even have exhaust this minion and your monsters as well to do like indirect damage, which forces you to put it either on a minion or onto your monster, which gets you closer to death. The monsters are kind of almost like a Larig and Weecross, except for they do a lot more when besides just swinging. There's a lot of design space on them as well. I probably will be doing a full like how to play in 5-minute video for this later on, because the gameplay was just really interesting. And again, it's like one action and then you do an action, then I do an action, and you keep doing that until there's nothing else that you guys can do. But there's also even something fun there where you can do something called slumber, where if you slumber, then you get a extra malice, but you pretty much give up all the actions for your turn, and you don't end the overall turn, the round, until one player slumbers. So if you pass and I pass, and then somebody's got to slumber, as far as I think it is right now. I'll probably got to figure it out 100%, but it's just, there's a lot of moving pieces, and the games feel really involved, very back and forth because of the nature of there not being quote-unquote turns. I really like that you can save up resources, you can spend the resources, there always feels like there's something going on. I'm very curious how the game's going to be when there's more things revealed, and because there's not too much to deal against monster fights right now, and I do think there's going to be some just like aggro, like I just swing my monster constantly at your life and don't even care about the other stuff going on. But we'll see, we'll see. All of that, however, is just because I wanted you to have kind of a baseline while we're talking about the cards, because showing off a bunch of cards that you guys don't know what they do or know anything about the game probably isn't going to help too much, even though the art is pretty cool. So you see here, it's a creature shark. This is a flip side. It has 4 attacks, so it deals 2 damage to the opponent's life when it swings. Or the monsters can also attack minions, so if you just kill something, and they never take damage from attack. So you just can swing into bigger things, like Unleashed action. Attack with the jaws, it gets +3 attack this turn. So you can attack with your jaws, and it's 4 + 3, math is hard, right? Like just 7 attack, like, and your life is 16. 7's pretty good. Same with this. So Jaws is very much like this aggro thing. Deals 2 damage to a character. Flip your character. So you just can flip your character randomly for like a jump scare in your opponent. Terrify an enemy minion. Return it to its owner's hand unless its controller says it's a prank. If they do, congrats. You get to cheat out a shark. That's pretty funny. They're very flavorful cards, honestly. And yeah, Unleashed action. So you have to be on the Unleashed side of your monster. Deal 2 damage to a minion. Yeah, this is very direct damage. And the jump scare, you can play with 1 malice or 1 blood. So like I said, it's kind of like a secondary resource going on. Killer whale. And this is how they limit the colors. You see how that had 2 of the little green symbol there? Basically, when you are bidding for initiative and you put it under your minion, it gives you another one of that color. So you can play multiple colors if you want. See here, it has 8 of the little scry thing, whatever that's called, the 4C. You get the scry 8. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck, put them on the top or bottom in any order. Like, all of your cards, it feels like, are doing something. So if you're not attacking with it, you can still just set up your entire deck with these 3. That seems pretty good. Threat from below. The classic overkill. It deals excess damage to the defending monster, which is again your life, your minion. So minions, monsters, creatures. That is my one downside, is like some of the wording is a little bit too similar, but it works in practice when you get used to it. Again, I love the Jaws stuff, and because it is with Universal, they have actual. This isn't like Temu Jaws. This is straight up Jaws, Amity Island. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a big horror fan, they're going to be going so far into the actual stuff. This isn't just how do I put it? This is literally going to be the IP. This isn't just an overarching, like, ooh, something that's kind of like a scary shark. You get what I'm saying? I mean, this is just a scary shark, so that's bad timing on my part, but anyway. Pit Pit. Loyal Labrador, and he's a minion you can only have 1 on the field of. Scries for 1, and he haunts your location for 1. You may move a malice from your opponent's to the location on your side. Okay, so he's just helping you take control of your location. Creature fish, stealth. Ignore guardian attacks on a character. So yeah, you can block a lot of things, which is cool. Everything's a blocker. It's not like Gundam where you need specific blockers. You just can block as long as they're not exhausted. When your monster flips, you deal 1 damage. So Jaws is all about constantly flipping, although looking at some of the newer cards that they're showing off, I feel like that's kind of the entire point of a lot of the game. Exhaust up to 2 minions at the same location and move them. So moving is interesting because some cards want to be moved and some don't. You could also just exhaust them so that you can attack them or that they can't block, so you can just go in for your direct attack. Jump scare is the one I was talking about, where if it comes off your life, you get to do that ability. Kind of like, again, your shield triggers. So if your life is damaged and the card flips and it has a jump scare, you get to do what it says on there for free, as long as it says it's for free. You also have assets, which are like your items, your enchantments, whatever you want to call them. They stay on the field and they do stuff. Artifacts, whatever. You'll also notice on a lot of these cards, even if it says like 5 or 6, you have to remember that the resources keep adding up. And all the cards do different stuff. So this one, like, scries for 2, it haunts for 1. You know, this one on the bottom, you get a blood and a malice if it's under your monster. It also has essentially death touch. Rough Tail Stingray. It's a minion. It haunts for 2, and it deals damage to a minion at all. It kills a minion. That includes if it's blocking. So that's, or guardian or whatever. So that's pretty cool. Veteran Harpooner. You can kind of see this is the secondary color in the Jaws deck. So each of these demo decks has like 2 different colors in them. I don't remember what each of them is called, but anyway, there's like 5 colors. As is typical, it's like 5 or 7 for most of the card games that you'll see. Deputy Hendrix, and over his head. I actually didn't realize how many of these were ones that you can only have 1 of on the field. I wonder if we played that a little bit wrong. Here's the locations. So action: 1 in a malice, deal 1 malice, deal 1 damage to a minion here. Limit once per round. Costs 3 to take control of it. And when you take control of it, you get a blood and a malice for free, and you get to do that action as long as you can pay the malice for it. So you can sometimes get control of this, like if you need to draw cards. Like this one takes 4 to take control over, but when you take control of it with your malice, you get you get to draw a card, and you get to deal 2 damage to a monster, so just 2 direct damage to your opponent. I don't know if the water and the building and that kind of thing that says underneath of the resource that you gain from the location is going to matter. I haven't seen anywhere it matters, but it is cool that, again, these are kind of open that they can. Here's all the tokens you get, at least with the demos. I can see a world kind of like with Gundam or Keyforge, where people are going to be printing a lot of these and selling them on Etsy. So you got your blood, you got your malice, and you got your damage tokens. So there are a lot of tokens. You don't need dice, but you do need tokens. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of tokens, but I don't know, it worked here. They weren't clogging a lot of this stuff, so I didn't feel as bad. Kind of is like Lorcana, since that is the persistent damage thing too, and I didn't really mind that. It's not like Battle Spirit Saga where you get little jewels moving everywhere. So I did sleeve these up to play, which was the footage earlier, and of course you gotta theme it, right? So you got the blue for Jaws, you got the blood red for Dracula, and yeah, so that's the Dracula and Jaws. However, I did get 2 others. Sleepy Hollow and the Bride of Frankenstein. Very excited for the Bride of Frankenstein one, and yeah, well, let's go through this one first. First thing I noticed is that these were supposed to be sealed, and this one wasn't. It's a little disappointing, but I believe everything's in here. I actually really like the Bride's art a lot. You may look at 1 more card with Foresee, okay, and she foresees 2, haunts 1, and then you can discard 1. So this is going to be a self-mill type thing. And on the other side, Kissed by Lightning. While 10 or more cards are in your crypt, oh, so she gets a bonus from in your grave. it gets +2 attack, so 4, and you get an extra blood. So you get a blood, a malice, and a draw on her, like, unleashed side, which is pretty darn strong. So you're swinging for 4, and you're getting a bunch of extra stuff. Also, these initiative cards, if you want to pause and scan the barcode and go ahead and read the rules yourself to understand a little bit better than my quick up thing, then all good, man. Underground Tomb. Don't sue them, Magic. No. Let me get the camera. At the start of your refresh, if there's 5 more cards in your crypt, you gain a blood. If there's 10 or more, you gain a malice. Okay, so this is specifically one that's made for the Bride, because all you get when you take control of it is drawing a card, but you do get a lot of stuff. And the refresh is at the start of your turn. When you foresee for the first time, you may draw a card and discard. So you're just trying to discard everything. Ooh, getting 2 blood when you take control of it seems pretty good. Now, because again, blood is the resource, it's your mana, it's your energy, it's your memory gauge, whatever you want to call it from whatever game you come from. I really love that they included draw cards in the demo decks. That's some cool art. Attack with a character. It gains, each enemy minion gets -1 health. Okay, so you just, if you want to all out swing, oh, there's only one of those. Maybe it's pretty good. Cosmic Ray Diffuser. I love the mad scientist stuff. I definitely want to be playing the Bride. And hey, you know what? Discarding and self-discard / mill, always fun to play around, even though it's sometimes hard to make sure that it isn't really strong, doesn't become like Dredge or whatever. A card with Guardian must be chosen as attack. Okay, so this is like you have to attack him first. We got the Gothic Gargoyle, some pretty neat art. It's a demon that haunts, and so it can come back from the grave just by paying its cost from the discard from all that foreseeing you're doing, which again is you scry, but because of the Bride you get to discard it. When it enters your location, you gain a blood. Okay, so you're going to be wanting to get your location a lot in this deck, I suppose. I've only played a bit. So the bite mark is when you can exhaust it just to give 2 indirect damage. I like the concept of indirect damage. It's pretty cool, so you don't have to necessarily just swing out with your stuff. Ethereal. Okay. Bloodhound. It's funny that you're playing the Bride, but you also have basically the ones trying to get her on inside your own deck. I guess we had that with Jaws too. So, and actually, yeah, we had a Dracula. I do wonder how well these are going to all end up mixing and matching. It's not like they like reference the cards too much. I think Jaws was the only one I saw that was like, you have to choose a Jaws. So maybe it's not going to have as much cards moving forward, unless they make more Jaws cards. Because this one is just like, if it's in your crypt, you do this. Which crypt is your trash? So it's like, that could probably slot into anything that cares about your graveyard. Or trash, or crypt, or again, whatever you want to call it. I've played way too many card games the past, year, and I'm starting to get all the names confused. Ready up to 2. Yeah, so you can keep ready up to 1 minion at the location. Kill a minion, just cold-blooded murder. Event is like your spell. You can only push a monster so far. Like, you just, I don't want that on the board. Just Doomblade it. See, this dude again. What did you do? So you can, okay, so malicious is you can pay with malicious or blood. So again, if you're getting a lot of malicious, then it's just an extra resource to pay for your dudes. Deathstalker Scorpion. So it's Death Touch. And again, you can block with it too. So just, you have a big dude? Okay, well, I'm going to make sure that it dies. I don't remember this being in Bride of Frankenstein, and I kind of want to rewatch to see if there's some armadillos. It's pretty funny. It costs 2. I guess it haunts and scries. So that's the Bride of Minion deck. I think this is cool. I'm probably going to be messing around with this one the most until they start showing some more cards. Or I guess I already bought a box for this, so we'll see what happens. It's just, yeah. Okay, so Headless Horseman is the kind of different one from these 4 decks because it's not based on an IP. I don't think there's a Headless Horseman movie. You can go ahead and tell me in the comments below if there is one, and I just don't remember. I do know the legend, but I don't remember. Yeah, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but what was there a movie? I'm not the biggest horror buff, so I'm not entirely sure. I do know that in this game, blue is like the ethereal, the cosmic, that kind of thing. Probably if they make a Cthulhu card, it'll probably be in blue. Yeah, so this is all about making your opponent's cards go away to do something. Take control. Draw 1 or terrify a minion here with 2 or less remaining health, so you can bounce it. Okay, so this deck is all going to be about bouncing your opponent's stuff, I suppose. Forest Lair. Yeah, I'm really curious at the Forest Lair. This is one's a town. Move an exhausted allied minion here. Limit once per round. Okay, so you can just move your stuff around. And this one says town. I want to know if the locations, like what it says, is going to matter. Like one is going to be like, oh, if you control a town location, do this. Banish a minion. Put a location under its owner control and exhaust it. If it's a demon, you may ready it. Okay, that's a lot of words. I don't remember what banish is. I think it's probably like exile, maybe. Yeah. Then put it at a location under. Okay, so you're flickering it, I think, is what's happening. Interesting. Okay. Terrify minion that costs less than an allied minion at the same location, and you can pay it with 2 malice, or for 2 malice you can pay it for free, essentially, on jump scare. So this is all about bouncing your opponent's stuff, or maybe your own stuff. That's some spooky cult stuff going on. Yeah, blue is definitely going to be like the Cthulian color. When attached card would be dealt damage, prevented. If you do, kill the non-enchantment. Alright. Terrifying Horseman. Love the art. Love the flaming pumpkin thing. First strike. Okay. Well, you know what? Did WotC stop suing people for using their terms? Did that happen? Was that a thing a while ago? Am I like misremembering this? When you take control of this location, you deal 1 damage to a character. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's fun. Lady Van Tassel, the Vengeful Witch. And she's like one of your... You can only have one of her. First spell you play costs 1 blood less to play. When you play a spell this phase, draw 1. Okay, that's pretty cool. The Dark Avenger. So, a lot of these have malicious or ways to pay with your malice tokens. I think I was calling them malicious tokens, whatever. The malice tokens that you gain, you can see on the bottom, that one gains you a blood and a malice if it's under your monster at the start. So I guess that's what this one is more based around, is like returning things to your opponent's hand, getting the malice tokens, and using them as your main resource instead of secondary resource. I'm just going to go out and assume it. I haven't actually played with this one yet. It's a lot of first strike. Okay, so I have a feeling that you're trying to like get their stuff low and either bounce it back to their hand or something like that. If you played a spell this phase, you can add a malice token. Strong-willed Witch. Okay, so it's all about spells. If you played a spell this turn, you can add it. So it's all about, that's to the location. So you're trying to get your location over and over, and you're trying to get a lot of malice. So it's kind of control-y, I guess. If you took control of a location this field, the Malevolent Mist. If you took control of a location, you may add this card to its owner's hand. Okay, so you're just trying to, since again, damage stays on it, it's a pretty good way to make sure that you keep a body on board, I suppose, to block. If you control a demon, gain a malice. Alright, so I think all of the spooky hollow guys were demons, so kill a non-token minion. If you do, kill another minion here. Okay, so we're gonna have tokens. That's promising. I do like tokens. We'll see how that goes with the first set. Tokens are, again, something kind of hard to balance sometimes. Move an enemy minion. Deal 1 damage to it. Alright, so again, your lanes, your minions can only attack in the lane that they're in. The monster can attack on both, but I guess if you don't want your minion to die, you can kind of just, oh no, you're not going to attack here this turn, so that's kind of fun. Tree of the Dead. And you can only have one of these, it looks like, because it's got that little dagger. Demonic Portal. Discard a card. You may pay a malice. If you do, play that card, ignoring its loyalty. If it's a demon, it costs a blood less to play. The loyalty is the top left, so like this one has one of that color's loyalty, even though it only costs 1 blood. Your monster, like the main dude in the middle, still has to have one of that kind of color. 3 malice. Kill this card. Terrify minion. Okay, so you're just bouncing stuff. This deck might be like the first one that feels super control-y. Dracula is kind of control-y, but this one feels like you just want to be nothing but control. First strike. And when it deals damage, you may terrify it. Okay, so this looks annoying. First strike, 2 damage in, and just pop it back to their hand. All right. Crone Witch. Some spooky looking art with those eyeballs. You may have a minion here get -1 this phase. So scheming is when you exhaust it to do the abilities. Now you do both the abilities. If there's 2, if there's 3, you do all of it. So the scheming is really cool. I think scheming and bidding is my favorite part of this game that they've shown and that I've played with, and I'm really excited for what's going to happen with it later. I want to play it more. I want to play with these demo decks more. I'm very curious how the full set's going to be. This is like the first game in a while where I don't really even like, yeah, the art's cool and all, or some of it is. I'm not the biggest horror fan. I don't go out and watch a bunch of the movies. I've seen a lot of the classics, but kind of who hasn't. I am just super excited for the gameplay. The gameplay is really different feeling, and maybe I'm just not playing those games because my friend was saying it feels a lot like some of the board games they were playing, but never felt boring. And it doesn't feel like there's a way to really combo off since you're doing one action, one action, one action. You're not really sitting there twiddling your thumbs ever. I really want it to be good. I'm very curious. Now there's some ways that it could be bad. I am a little hesitant about the monster's power on the flip side and just swinging constantly for game and ignoring the minions completely. We'll see how, or even ignoring the locations completely. You know, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how much you can block your monster. Like in Wheat Cross, you have your guard cards. You can freeze Larigs and stop them from unexhausting or whatever. Maybe there'll be something like that where it's like, you know, exhaust a monster so it can't swing this turn, something like that. Because otherwise, you know, if you're swinging for 4+ with your monster every turn, it's kind of like, is there too much point in battling over the locations if the locations aren't super strong? Now, again, these are demo decks, and I did have a lot of fun with just the demo decks, which is not a very typical experience of demos. Normally, you play for like 20 minutes, and it's like, well, yeah, that's the game, and you just move on. We played these for like 3 or 4 hours and did not get bored, so I'm very curious how it's going to go. And I'll probably be making a how to play once I wrap my head around the rules even more, if for nothing else for myself. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's coming out, I think, in January. It was planned to come out October 31st, but I guess there was a production issue, and now it's been delayed, which is kind of sad because Hecatomb had something kind of similar where it was originally supposed to come out in like October, but then it got delayed. It came out in like a summer, and then the second set came out in October, and the third set came out a little bit after in like January, and then the game died because of WotC and, you know, war in the Middle East. But anyway, I am super stoked for this. If you are too, and you like card games, or you like anime, or you like this game in particular and want to see more, go ahead and like, subscribe, bell, all of that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.
I'm ready. Question is, are you? Kill you later.